So I'm Nadeem Sheikh. I'm one of the co-founders of the Anthemis Group. We are a meta startup with a small, vision of reinventing finance for the 21st century. Very modest. We hope to do it in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So we have two sets of businesses. One is a really investment in startups. We have about 22 investments today across the financial service landscape. And we also have an advisory and talent business where we help the incumbents think about how to really incorporate all the innovation happening around them and how to transform the existing businesses. What I'm going to talk about today is maybe 4 things. There's a technology revolution going on. What does that mean? What is a digital consumer? Who is a digital consumer? What is the consumer looking for? And how are the incumbents fighting back? Yeah. So we are in the middle of a major revolution. If anyone's read Carlota Perez, if you haven't, I would recommend you read her book, Technology Revolutions. She has documented the last 8 or 9 major tech revolutions happening over time, and all this, kind of really the history behind it. And we are in the middle of what she calls a transformation from an industrial economy to an information economy. And so what does that mean is that there are some major trends happening and the entirety of our being is being impacted. This is one of the few revolutions, actually the only one, where the consumer is at the leading edge of that revolution, as opposed to what usually has been a government or a big corporate-led initiative. So you hear all kinds of trends out there. You hear big data, gamification, crowd sourcing, which is what Giles will talk about. You hear about appification, everything as a service, right? We return to the service. Consumerization, which is a focus on consumer. And you kind of wonder, these trends have been there for a while, and you kind of wonder why something hasn't happened in the financial services industry and why it's taken so long for this to come across. And it's a lot of reasons. There's the barriers of entry, entrenched incumbents, a lot of regulation, but those things are changing. When we started looking at the space, and we were having this sidebar before, probably you could figure out a handful, maybe a page of, a sheet of Excel, and you could pretty much name all the exciting financial service companies across the globe. Now they are, in our small database, we track about 3,000. So it's a marketplace that's completely exploded and lots of change going on. So let's talk a little bit about what is the consumer, who's a consumer. So anyone can tell me what happened on September 4, 1998? Come on. Nope. Pretty big. Google. Google was launched. So think about a consumer that was born on the same day as Google and what they are experiencing today, what they're looking at. And industry after industry, there is a change going on. Think about the music industry, what it was like. Think about photography. Think about Encyclopedia Britannica. Think about where they are. Think about your catalog businesses have gone. Think about the lending businesses and how they're changing. Think about the banking business and so on. So when you look at a consumer, there's a multitude of industries, and now it's coming to financial services with a major change going on that wasn't there before, right? And so now, what does this consumer look like? People always think about a digital consumer as some young person in their teens, early 20s, walking around and saying, we are a digital consumer. The reality is quite different. We work across, so we invest across really globally, and we do a lot of advisory work in all over Middle East, Africa, Asia, in Europe, now even Australia. The only place we're not really present is Latin America, but still a lot of anecdotal stuff from there. And so we don't really see a difference of gender. We don't see a difference of economic status, nationality, culture. Everywhere we turn to, people are embracing the digital, regardless of where they are, right? And so, so in a way, the divide between digital and physical space is also disappearing. So people are not differentiating between how they approach a shop or a retailer online, as an example, and what they do physically, right? They're expecting the same kind of behavior to come from their suppliers and so on. So I'm going to talk a little about, probably about 6 or 7 random trends. These are just things that we have kind of for the purpose of this conversation, and I'm sure we can add some more in between us and talk about this. But what is a consumer looking for? What is that we search for in a startup, as an example, and saying, is the startup meeting these requirements? And this is not meant to be a critical list of checklists, but it's just as they give you a feel. So what a consumer is looking for is recommendations and co-creation. I want to participate in the creation of the product I want to use. Example, and some of the examples that companies have invested in, so, a disclaimer there. Keynote is an example, which is based out of Munich. It's a bank, fully regulated bank, where they came up with the idea of coming up with a new savings certificate, which is like someone saying, I want to open a new current account in the UK. And they said, well, we want to get our community of customers, and they have a community of people who are participating and members within their community and people who are full KYC customers. And they said, we want to go launch a new savings product. Went out to the customer, paid 10 euro cents, got 4,000 ideas in 48 hours. And from the point of launch, or thought about the idea at one of the board meetings or product meetings, to launching the product, took about 7 weeks. And they had 80% uptake from their customer base. When was the last time as a financial institution or anyone you got an 80% uptake? So people want to participate. They want to have a say, even for something as simple as a savings certificate, right? Which is a very plain vanilla kind of product. There's abstraction of complexity. Hide the complexity for me. And there's lots of organizations out there. The Apple iPhone is a great example of that. Where all the complexity is hidden from the consumer, and that's where the uptake is. We have examples of Stripe, Payworks around the e-commerce payment space. Or Payworks is based out of Munich as well. Companies are doing that exactly. They're hiding all the complexity of what happens in the integration of e-commerce for the retailers, and kind of simply putting together a very simple way of getting that data across. Transparency. Lots of people in looking at saying, how do you make this transparent? How do I know exactly what I'm paying? Examples, even in industries like FX, Currency Cloud example, TransferWise is an example of people who are really simplifying that at a consumer level. You getting your rates, which are what normally institution would have gotten, right? So all the stuff that you paid and all the stuff that you paid an extra that you didn't even know about what you were paying, they're kind of transforming that and kind of giving you a very simple at a fingertip kind of thing. Insights to data, lots of companies out there doing that. Lifestyle integration. I don't go get a loan, I buy a car. I don't get a mortgage, I buy a home. I don't really don't care about how I pay. I want to just get the goods, right? So it's about how do you integrate whatever you're offering into my lifestyle. Azima is an example of a company that does remittances through Facebook. Google has just launched in the US is an example of within your email, you can send money, right? So very simple kind of concepts. It's about integrating into your lifestyle, not something that I have to go outside of how I approach my day-to-day life, right? Last couple things, real-time feedback, right? I want to be able to tell you exactly how I'm feeling, whenever I'm feeling, as I'm using the product. Examples of things when it goes wrong, and everyone knows about NatWest, and when it went down, people start tweeting on the Twitter handle, NatWest, which turned out to be Natalie West, who was a teacher in the north of England and got abused. I'm not sure if you've seen the YouTube video of United broke my guitar. In a guy traveling. So again, very, very simple. These are bad examples. There are also great examples of companies that are using, really saying, I want to be able to provide feedback, and how do you incorporate that feedback, and how do you transform that your product and service to me is very important. Lots of examples. I know you guys do this. Keynote example, all the customer service is based on Facebook. A lot of the customers themselves are providing their customer service to other customers and saying, this is how you use the product, this is how you shouldn't use the product. eToro is a great example, which is a platform out of Israel, which is really about social investing. And so you can really follow everyone's trade. You know exactly what they're investing, you can copy the trades and provide feedback on how you think they're doing. And so you can monitor your performance based on how others are doing, and have a very open dialogue. What used to be a very secret thing, I used to invest my own portfolio, no one knew what I was doing. Now it's like a very open, and people can see exactly what I'm doing, how my performance is. Last is about behavioral economics and gamification. Is how do you, a company example, for example, Payworks, based on the US, they are looking to transport this model across to some of the emerging markets. They are a prepaid loyalty platform that allows, kind of create some kind of gamification theory along with sweepstakes to reward people to create the right behaviors and how to use your card. So if you think about the unbanked to underbanked segments, who actually a lot of them don't really know what financial services are in terms of complexity or what we take for granted in this room, they are being educated, and a very simple system which is taking off, and it's kind of they have a partnership with MasterCard that's rolling out around the US. They've been cited by White House, and now we look at a bunch of state governments to do a lot of the social payments and so on around it. So here's these are, kind of drastic changes going on. If you looked at the landscape of financial services, there were a bunch of financial institutions that used provided. Now pretty much every segment, every piece of that vertical is being attacked by lots of people who are saying, I'm not interested in being service provider to the whole thing. I'm just trying to take a piece of this, the key, come part of it and provide it the best way I can. And consumer is willing to buy that piece in the way they want to consume it, right? And saying, I would just want that component of what you're providing, as opposed to just a generic relationship where you are good at something and bad at others. But this is not just about the startup world, right? And we kind of get lost in the startup world. One of the thesis of Anthemis is saying we are trying to provide the third space between startups and incumbents. Because we are not saying that financial service industry as it exists today is going to disappear, that the high street banks is going to disappear. It's saying they have to transform themselves to survive, and they have to kind of take into account on the innovation happening. An example, because people I always hear them get pillared in every conference they go to, and PayPal as an old school, oh my God, what are they doing? But here's an example of the last 12 months, 18 months of what PayPal is doing. PayPal by face, or PayPal in store, ways of kind of using PayPal within the high street with a very creative way. PayPal here is a clone of Square, as an example. PayPal just announced a relationship with Coinstar, where people can go and, using Coinstar machines in the US, load up points to both deposit and withdraw money from their PayPal accounts. PayPal announced a relationship with MoneyGram, where they can transmit money from their PayPal accounts. So it's not just the startups, they're taking some of the ideas and cloning them very rapidly, and kind of trying to think about how to really understand what the consumer is looking for. They have scale, and saying, how do we kind of transform the experience and get better? A lot of startups are really trying to threaten them because they're taking some of the economic pieces of the value chain as opposed to the 80% that don't make money. So they're attacking the 20% that makes money, and they're taking them away. But at the same time, I think it'd be fair to say that incumbents across the financial services divide are starting to wake up and fight. Some of them are fighting better than others. Some of them saying, I see it coming, I'm not sure what to do about it, and that's where we come in. But so, thanks so much. This is just a quick overview of what's all that happening in the digitally native finance world, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm going to